Welcome back to the Contrarians. We have our little mini show here that we have going on here called Reliving Old Reviews is a Useless Tool of Confusion. I'll let you figure out where that quote comes from. But yeah, the idea here is that we're going to look at an old review of a band that got super famous or an album that got famous and seeing if they, the boots on the ground, the reviewers of the day could figure out the importance of these things or not, see what they had to say, how this band was faring at the time. Today, we're going to be looking at Pink Floyd Meddle. By the way, you can still get my Pink Floyd Dark Side of the Moon coffee table book with the slipcover and all that kind of stuff at martinpopoff.com. I still have a supply of those. It's die cut for the diamond and everything, but the entire book is about Dark Side of the Moon. So yeah, martinpopoff.com, PayPal buttons, all that kind of stuff. So let's see what they have to say about this. So this is from Melody Maker, 1971. The reviewer is, let's scroll to the end here. The reviewer is MW. You know how they got the panel here. It did get the premiere review, which makes sense because Pink Floyd's been around for a long, long time already at this point, something like 6 albums. Pop albums, is their section that they have in Melody Maker. It is the top review. It gets a heading, Pink's Muddled Metal. So there's a clue, and it even gets a picture and with a quote saying signifying nothing ? So let's see what they say here. One can't help but feel that Pink Floyd are so much sound and fury, signifying nothing. Their achievement has been to create a space rock sound which revolves around the use of electronic effects combined with the usual musical instrumentation of four-piece rock bands, i.e. drums, guitar, bass, and organ. So I like that. The idea of this is space rock, doesn't say it's progressive rock, and Pink Floyd definitely there has been a lot of space rock along the way, and this is probably their most space rock album, I imagine. And then it goes on to say, frequently they have utilized the concept to good effect, right from the early days of Interstellar Overdrive and Astronomy Domine to the Atom Heart Mother and Amagama album. But how much of this, in fact, has been pure effect? Stripped of the sense of either, the music hardly stands up as more than competent rhythmic rock, while even the use of electronics and spacey atmospherics is not as adventurous as they may seem at first hearing, especially when considered alongside such as Zero Times by Tonto's Expanding Headband. There's a reference you don't hear too often, Tonto's Expanding Headband. Meddle exhibits all their faults as well as their most successful points. The first side is taken up with songs as opposed to long instrumental pieces, and it's in this area that they most expose themselves to criticism, since Syd Barrett left them, has been no one in the band able to cope with the sort of pithy statement that is necessary to the 5-minute pop track, which undoubtedly explains why they have ceased to work in the single format. The vocals verge on the drippy, and the instrumental workouts, which rely heavily on Dave Gilmour's guitar, are decidedly old hat. Listening to One of These Days, it's a throwback to Telstar by the Tornadoes. Wow. The second side, Echoes, is the one where the concept comes in. It encompasses the whole side, starts out with a passage of acidic pings and lots of soaring guitar before setting into a genuinely funky organ riff, and then there is introduced some wind effects and the sound of crowing rooks, or it could be cows. That's how it comes across. It follows on with some beautiful cello set against further use of acidic before the whole piece crashes out in a crescendo of volume and rattling cymbals. Let's scroll down here. Far out, you may say. Not really, although there appears to be some continuity in the work. The acidic, I keep seeing that. This guy used this term, ASDIC, like literally like 3 times now. It's weird. I've never seen that word. Echoes. Get it? My main impression was of a series of effects without any underlying depth. Interesting, even aesthetic. They may be, but superficial ultimately, like background notes in a Radio 3 play. When there is little real musical substance to sustain those effects, how can the result be anything but a soundtrack to a non-existent movie? And of course, before that, we had Obscured by Clouds as well. So this is kind of a soundtracky album. It is the last album of the beginning, or it is the first album of the glorious future that Pink Floyd has. So a lot of people consider this the first really good Pink Floyd album, separated from the first two, which are really good psych albums, but then everything in between does not get lauded as very much. They're confused. They're all over the place. They're even krautrock at times. You think of Amagama, things on Atom Heart Mother, but Meddle is really a setup for Dark Side of the Moon, I think. Hang on, is it Obscured by Clouds, Meddle? Anyways, those two together and Obscured by Clouds is, like more. It's kind of, it's a sound, is deliberately a soundtrack thing. Meddle stands alone, but it's very, very soundtracky, right? So essentially, a lot of the ideas that you hear on Meddle, that this writer is not crazy about, finds them boring, finds them indulgent, finds them pithy, that there's not much going on. A lot of those cool ideas are going to be distilled into a much shorter, much more commercial songs on Dark Side of the Moon. And of course, the rest is history. That's a completely massive album. So there you go. There is an old period review of Pink Floyd Meddle that this writer was not too particularly impressed with. That's another edition of Reliving Old Reviews. It's a useless tool of confusion.